Hi, I'm May. This video, I am going to talk to you about teaching objective, touch up on the structure of questioning that I adopted for the TPRS segment of your lessons. And what else do you teach in the remainder of your lesson? Remember, the lessons are based 45 minutes to an hour, and I really extended that to an hour in all my courses, the individual courses, the overall, or the comprehensive courses on Teachable. Um, and to start with, let's go to the teaching objective. So, I had a problem with teaching objective over the years. I know what I need to teach and how I get there, meaning the material I picked, whether it's the text, the language structures, the vocabulary words, what activities are involved. I base my lesson on I do, we do, and then you do as an individual student. So, with that being said, I have the objective in mind when I design my lessons. However, when it comes to teaching beginning ESL students, is there a point of stating an objective to them before the lesson? Will that make any sense to them? Probably not. Think about it. These are students who don't know a word of English, and they are sitting in your class waiting for you to teach them anything so they can use it, make sense out of it, of course, first, and then use it. They are similar to the kids who are learning language for the first time. So you may not think that, but I know when I watch little kids, whether it's my grandchildren or other kids, moms or their caregivers would usually, let's say, they're learning food vocabulary. They sit at the table in their high chair or booster chair, and the caregiver or mom would bring the food right in front of them. The utensils are right in front of them, and will demonstrate to them, sweetie, you are going to eat today. Okay, so this is the fork. Grab your fork, and mom will demonstrate that, right? Will pick up the fork, will bring the fork to her mouth and chew the food. She may even grab a piece of that food with the fork to show her how to do that, whether it's the fork, whether it's uh, the spoon. Will bring it to her mouth, will put it inside her mouth, will chew with her mouth open to show how this is done. And will hold the fork and say fork, and will hold the spoon and say spoon, fork, spoon, spoon, fork, food, whatever that food is, right? Whether it's your blueberries, whether it's your oats, whether it's your bread or whatever, um, kinesthetically, correct? And never told them, today we are going to learn food vocabulary. That's acquisition. And you are teaching your newcomers or beginners through the acquisition method, or by using or by applying the acquisition method. There is absolutely no point of stating your objective. And I've had that problem with many of my administrators over the years. Like, okay, I do know what I'm teaching, and this is what I'm doing from start to finish, but don't ask me to put down an objective and state it in front of the kids. Some of them even ask that the kids read the objective and the kids explain it. You know what? Not for newcomers, not for your beginning ESL students. This is something you can do with your advanced students, not even your intermediate students. Because as you get older, yes, you do want to know. For example, when I started this video, what did I say? I am going to talk about the structure, the objective, and what else do you do in the remainder of the time of your 1 hour teaching block. You need to know that. So you keep track of, okay, well, she talked about this, she talked about that, she elaborated on this. It's also good for me to know that I'm talking about three things here, and those three things are this, and that. Like behind this screen that I have on my laptop right now, I do have my notes of my talking points. What am I talking about today? Just in case I forget or I get sidetracked, which is something I do very often. I am beginning to see that the older I get and the more information I know, the more I get sidetracked, and I because I know so much and I can't leave out details and whatever. Anyway, this is not about me right now. Let's go back to the objective. So, this is one argument. Now, the other argument that I can present to you, I don't know if you are aware of Lucy Calkins, a very famous literacy person in the field. I knew her here in the United States. I adopted her way of teaching personal narrative. I actually walked in a classroom with a basket full of crayons, and I just gave the kids paper, crayons, pencils. And it was not an ESL classroom, but it had ESL kids. It's a mainstream classroom. It was second grade. Um, it had ESL kids in the classroom, and I walked in, introduced myself, greeted everybody. Tell me if you like writing or not. Of course, many of them did not like writing, and that's the reason why I adopted Lucy Calkins' um, method or way of teaching narrative writing. So. I pretended that as I walked across the room right in front of the students, my basket of crayons fell off my hand and my crayons spilled all over the rug. And, and I asked them what happened. Tell me what happened first, because we are talking about a specific moment. So whatever they said, I put it on the board, and then I asked them again. So what do you think really happened first? Because I had different answers, and I had to write down all those answers. And this way, I introduced personal narrative. I zoomed in a one moment, and I also taught to process writing, if you think about it, because first, this is what happened. Second, this is what happened. Third, this is what happened. Um, and I didn't have to state my objective when I first walked in. It's the element of surprise. And do students need that? Absolutely. Okay. Mentally, they are prepared to learn, but you don't have to tell them, oh, today we're going to talk about food vocabulary. Mm, just do it. Okay. They will more likely to be more receptive to that approach than the other, I call it boring approach. But I'll let that be your judgment. Again, I do like to keep an open mind when I make those suggestions, because I know for some teachers, oh no, you have to. Without an objective, it's a chaos. Kids don't know what to expect. Da, 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 da. Well, it's acquisition, but you are also a language teacher and you have your own approach or philosophy in teaching, but this is just my take on the teaching objective. All right. I also said the structure that I adopted of the questions for TPRS. If you search the internet, you're going to land on so many videos and so many other resources about TPRS. Um, and I looked at the many structures out there and decided 8 questions is a good number. The first 3 questions are your yes no questions. Your fourth question is a follow up question. So that's pretty much an assessment to see whether kids are getting it or not. If not, then you ask more yes no questions. If they get it, then you move on to your WH. And when I say WH questions, don't ask anything how or why. Stick to the who, what, where, when. They are easier. What, I would delay that also. But then again, you are the judge because you know your students better than I do. So you make that decision. Um, Following your WH questions, your seventh questions is fill in the blank. The text is right in front of them. You have already talked about it and you already observed and concluded they are ready to fill in the blank. So pick anything that you want them to fill in the blank and do that together. Again, if they don't get it yet, give them another fill in the blank. Give them a third fill in the blank. Let that be your judgment. I just hate it when we go to the same training, myself and my colleagues end up saying, okay, so that's what we have to do. Well, that's just a skeleton. You still have your academic freedom. You make that decision how you want to apply it to your classroom or to your lesson um, because you know your students best. With that being said, there is a question that you have to ask towards the end of your lesson that leaves them with wonder. We don't know that yet. So, when I say wonder, that's when you ask your why or how questions or any question that will prime them for the extension or the expansion of your TPRS story the next time you meet with them. Okay. And this is something I talk extensively in my course according to whatever lesson that um, that I am teaching, and then I make that connection throughout the course. The other thing, what do you do after you finish TPRS? So before you start TPRS, establish this routine of calendar. You may think, oh, they do know the days. Of course they know the days of the week. No, they don't. Okay, they may say, yeah, today is Tuesday, Monday, whatever. But you ask them, what is tomorrow? What was yesterday? They don't know that. Give me the days of the week. I had a student who struggled. I think he was dyslexic. Struggled sequencing the days of the week and the months of the year. So you start, with today is, tomorrow will be, um, yesterday was. Again, you are teaching not just the days of the week, but you are teaching present and past and future grammar. You're also teaching the months of the year. Um, Add to that weather. Today's weather, look outside the window, or if you don't have a window, and sometimes I don't in my classroom, um, ask them, is it a sunny day? Show them what sunny day looks like. I always provide those visuals for them. Stick to something very basic to start with. Again, you know your students best. So stick to something that is basic and then elaborate from there. At some point, your students are the ones who can present to the rest of the group or the rest of the class calendar. You don't have to do it. Whose turn today to do calendar? Sometimes I have my students fight over this. Can I be the one? Can I be the one? You'd be surprised at how much they would love to take on that role of teaching the others because they know it. And that makes it even more concrete to them. And at some point, you don't have to have them write that sentence in their notebook. Today is, yesterday was, because it's been written several times and it is concrete. Again, this is something I talk more extensively about in my course. Now, this may not take more than 5, 10 minutes. What about next? So, the other things, if you picked up on a fatal grammar mistake during your TPRS lesson and the students' responses, make a mental note. And after you finish your lesson, you are going to reflect on the lesson and you are going to make sure that you address that in a mini lesson, um, a very basic mini lesson. Now, whether you want to follow up with some homework for them to do, sure. Give them time to practice on that in class, absolutely. But I always recommend both because they are newcomers and think about it, when you learn something, what makes you pro at it is practice. So, that's something that I just covered. Make sure also that you tell students, specifically beginning students or newcomers, there is a difference between spoken English and academic English because they tend to think, and over the years, like I've seen that so much in my classroom, they think English is written the same way it's spoken, and that's not the case. Maybe social media English is written as it's spoken, but academic English is not. So make sure you tell them that, and then you also tell them, let's see what that means. Okay, have an allocated time for read aloud. Read aloud is very important. It's such an enjoyable thing for or activity for them because they can start, you know, um, get sidetracked, think of something else. It's a way to give them a mental break, and some of them can be very attentive and would just follow up on the story that you are reading out loud to them. I like big books, and our library has a lot of big books for me to borrow. Do that on weekly basis. It's definitely something that they look forward to. Um, then you can extract other activities from the big book read aloud, and whether you give them an exit ticket at the end of the activity just to make sure that they learned at least something or two. And I talk more about that in my courses. Again, what else do you do during the 1 hour lesson? You can introduce to them wordless books. I love wordless books. I use them actually in high school as well for my ESL students at some point, and they just loved it. With wordless books, you're going to end up with so many interesting stories. And it is a way for them to unleash their imagination and say whatever they take full ownership of the thought and the literature. You can teach literature, you can teach grammar, you can teach fluency, you can teach so much with wordless books. Again, this is something I talk about extensively in my course, in terms of the activities that you can do with the students in during the time that you introduce wordless books. So it's not just showing them a picture with no scaffolds. You need to we need to structure that more. All right, so that's enough for today's video. Let's go ahead and chat about that in the community corner of my YouTube channel. So uh, I'll see you soon, and until then, I look forward to reading your thoughts and your questions or your discussions. Be well. Adios for now.